I too like to be very vulnerable, because it is the strongest characteristic a person can have. Because from my vulnerability comes a lack of excuses. I can go back, and I just said this in my, and I'm not a guy, if I wasn't telling my story, I don't think anybody would even know today that I was ever in prison. But
Yeah.
if I wanted to live my life with excuses, we could just pull out my FBI report, and it looks really, really bad. In today's world, I own a solar sail.
Welcome to the Gentleman Success, Happiness, and Fulfillment Talk podcast, where we bring to you the most successful, happy, fulfilled gentlemen from around the world who have been able to conquer themselves, their life, their marriage, and their businesses. You will be learning from four-dimensional gentlemen who have cracked the code to the science of having it all. The question is, how can married entrepreneurs with kids become gentlemen, achieve true freedom, and build a successful, happy, and fulfilled life, marriage, and business? This show will give you the answer for that. My name is Alex Ramirez, and I'm your host, and you're welcome to the Gentleman Success, Happiness, Fulfillment Talk podcast. Alcoholic, and it's funny because he suffered from premature ejaculation. Right now he was able to be vulnerable as well. And he used to jerk off 10 times a day when he was little. He didn't have a dad that taught him how to do that properly, and that led him to become a premature ejaculator. And then when he drank, he lasted a little bit longer. And then when he did cocaine, he lasted a little bit longer. And then when he did some other shit, he lasted a little bit longer. So I paid $25,000 for a program the other day, man. And the first lesson, the first video was that the coach was telling us, was that to not masturbate. And if you're going to do it, don't watch porn, use your imagination. Imagine if my dad, man, would have had access to that information when he was little, right? So $25,000, my mom and my people, my family thought that I was crazy for investing that into myself, but I didn't. But that one lesson, man, would have saved my dad's life. So sorry to, deviate, but to answer your question, yeah, he was a drug addict and alcoholic. Yeah.
Well, what's interesting is that you have somebody who's an active drug addict and alcoholic trying to explain to you how to be a gentleman, right? I think that internally, most people want to be successful, right? And when I talk about success, I think we have to define, really the meaning of success, because I think, people will try and assign a monetary value or a physical aspect to success. I see you have money in the bank, or, oh, I see you have a nice watch or cars. If we really get away from that, my definition of success, and when I actually consider success, a successful human being to me, and somebody that I respect as successful, and somebody that I'm willing to follow and take advice from, is a human being that's adding value to other people. Whether that in the most successful people are successful in adding value to everyone in their lives. They're adding value to their families. They're adding values as husband or wives. They're adding value in their friendships. They're adding value in their work relationships. And these types of people, I mean, listen, we can look at major players in history who had no physical or financial value, but were extremely wealthy in adding value. I mean, if we look at someone like Gandhi, there's so many players that just were spiritually wealthy, and they added so much massive value. So, what I hear when you talk about your father, you have a man who's, and my mother was addicted to drugs and alcohol as well. And you have a guy that, obviously understands the meaning of being successful, or understands the meaning of being a gentleman, because, what the core of what you're talking about, because we have to be able to apply it to women too, right? But in what the core of what you're talking about is adding value to people. And the first person, if I'm going to add value to anyone, the first person that I have to add value to is myself. I have to have an internal belief system that I can do what I set my mind to, whether that's, I can be sober, I can be this, I can be that. And it can go the other way too. I can drink alcohol, I can do cocaine, I can be a bad father. When to be this person that you're talking about, the modern gentleman, the person you initially have to have this internal belief system that says, I can do that. And, for me in my life, there were many different things. I was just teaching a sales meeting today, and I was going over my internal belief systems. And I'm a person that says, first of all, we can't have victim behavior. And if I have a million excuses if I wanted to pull them all out. I'm not somebody who started at the bottom. In my life, I feel like there's a trap door at the bottom. Mm-hmm. And when that trap door is lifted, you can fall actually below the bottom. And that's kind of where I feel that I started from. When I wanted to start believing in myself, I didn't believe I could get a driver's license. I didn't believe I could stay out of prison. I didn't believe that I didn't believe that I couldn't take another drink. I thought it was impossible to stop drinking. I thought it was impossible to stay out of prison. I thought it was impossible to stop doing crimes. So for me, just the possibility to believe in myself, to even just stay out of prison or not be an alcoholic, was almost impossible at some point in my life. And, the more I focused on these things and understood that I wasn't the person that I wanted to be, I think this is where the differentiator goes is, most people who are in those circumstances don't want to be that person. Your father probably did not want to be that person. He understood what a gentleman was, but at different areas of his life, he wasn't strong enough mentally and internally to take the actions necessary to do those things. So people become so comfortable with failing that it becomes impossible to succeed because they don't believe in themselves. And so, for me, if we're going to go with the gentleman, becoming the modern gentleman, for me, that really started with very small belief systems that I could get a high school diploma, that I started with a GED, that I could get a GED, that I could get a high school diploma. And when I say I started below the bottom, most people don't start in these severe circumstances. Some people just, they go to college and they just don't know where to go. And they're like, mm-hmm. What do I do from here? And I like to take away excuses from people because I'm like, man, if you have an excuse, I really have some excuses. Yeah. And if I didn't have any excuses, and if I can do this, then you can do this. And, those belief systems, and I love watching people succeed and I hate watching people fail, but the people that have failed in my life, I've learned some of the greatest lessons from. It's just interesting to me to hear you say that you have a father who's an active alcoholic and an active drug addict trying to teach you how to be a gentleman. The key there, and I heard you also say, like, going through that experience with your daughter was one of the worst things that happened to you. But, before that, I heard you kind of talk about alcoholism and drug addiction. And I was in a very similar boat in a young age. And, you go through some pretty traumatic things. Teenagers just are not supposed to be doing cocaine. That's all there is to it. Teenagers are just not supposed to be drunk out, blackout drunk. These are just not situations that the human psyche is supposed to be going through at that age. It's very traumatic. And then you go into this situation with your daughter. And during this time, you're collecting information that's saying, this is the way that it could be. And where this road splits for people like you and me, and, I don't know if your father ever got sober, but my mother essentially got sober, but not truly. She never got all the way sober. And I did, was that I got so sick of being the person that I was, that I was willing to go through all of the pain, mental, spiritual pain that was necessary to become the person that I am. And it's a very difficult road. And, when we talk about a gentleman, most people, I think when they hear the word gentleman, they think, we all should do this, but we open the door for, the ladies, and, if we see something bad going on, we try to insert ourselves. We're kind of like the knight in shining armor, but it really goes so much deeper than that. Is who are you when nobody's watching? Do you have integrity in all of your affairs? Do you tell the truth when it's hard? Do you live a life of principles? And principles, we see people who talk about principles, but principles make you do the right things in the hard times. It's always easy to do the right thing when it's easy. It's always easy to do the right thing when everybody's watching. The test for a man or a woman is when nobody's watching, do they still have principles? Do they still act the same way? And those core principles and those core beliefs and those core actions are what truly make you that modern gentleman or that knight in shining armor, because we have to be able to apply this, to women as well. Because, I know I have a lot of women in my life that are incredibly strong and brave, and they're filled with integrity and love, and they add value to all of the people in their lives. And those are really the only people that I'm surrounded by. So, listen, I love your message, because, I think we're cut from a very similar cloth. And, I too like to be very vulnerable, because it is the strongest characteristic a person can have, because from my vulnerability comes a lack of excuses. I can go back, and I just said this in my, and I'm not a guy, if I wasn't telling my story, I don't think anybody would even know today that I was ever in prison. But if I wanted to live my life with excuses, we could just pull out my FBI report, and it looks really, really bad. In today's world, I own a solar sales company. I'm a licensed contractor. I own Fortitude Roofing and solar. So, but all that has been built on a lack of excuses. So I like to be vulnerable with my story. And I'm not saying any of that to high side. I'm just saying that I eradicated excuses. I became a man of principles, and I created action in my life that made me successful through a belief system of being a good human being.
Awesome, man. Man, well, first of all, man, how can I say this? Well, congratulations, man. Like, when you say that, not only did you not start from the bottom, there's a gate, that it's even more down than the bottom. That's crazy, man, right? Being in prison, doing drugs and all that. It's crazy. And then I don't know if you feel comfortable sharing this, but like, how old are you, man?
I'm 46.
And then, man, when I was younger, I used to think that like 46, and this is based on like the people that I used to surround myself with, right? But I would see people who were 40 years of age and they were done. Like they're done, man. And I used to think to myself that, fuck, when I'm 45 years old, like I'm going to be done. And I just like look at you, and then I get on podcasts with a lot of successful men who are in their 40s and stuff. And they're just getting started, man. Like they're just full of drive and vitality and courage and energy, right? And like, I want to give you props for that, man. Congrats on your success. Congrats on making it out from that hole that you were stuck in, right? Mm-hmm. From being even less than the bottom. So congrats on that, man. And I totally agree with you when you say, like the majority of people in the world don't like their current situation. They don't like where they are, but they're so comfortable in it that they accept it, right? They're so comfortable in it that they accept it, or they're scared to make a change, right? And then that's when people like you and me come in and like to get them out of their comfort zone, or to get them or to encourage them, equip them, and motivate, inspire, and bless them with everything that's needed to make a change. So who was that person? Like did someone come into your life? When you say that the first step was eradicating your excuses, becoming a person that is aligned with his values, with his principles. So when you first decided to, this has to change, and you wanted to eradicate all excuses, like what made the shift? Did someone help you? Did someone come into your life, or what happened, man?
No, so I think, my stories, I do have some people in my life that came on a little bit later. So, I'll be very vulnerable with my story. I've my story's out there on another podcast, so everybody should know my story. But when I was in prison in California in the late 90s and early 2000s, the 3 strikes law had just come out. And so, I was in prison, and there was just, a large number of people that I knew that were there with me that were doing 25 to life, that had all committed, minor drug crimes. They were just like me. I wasn't a guy that was out, killing people or doing anything like that. I would do drugs and then go out and, steal stuff to get more drugs. Burglaries and all these things, they're strikeable felonies in California. And so, it really just dawned on me at one point. I remember I was in Susanville State Prison in Northern California, and I just, so many guys were doing 25 to life. And it just dawned on me that, I had a strike, and I was like, this is me. This is going to happen to me. And a lot of things started occurring to me all at the same time, and it's a very dramatic story, that probably most people don't have, but it can be associated with other stories. You could live in an impoverished neighborhood and see that everybody just drops out of school and goes and be a drug dealer. You could be in a good neighborhood and see that everybody goes to college and then just doesn't get a job. It was just a situation that, I saw everybody in my circle of influence, and for me that at that time was prison, that was living a life that I was in a direct track for, that I didn't want to live. And it was very apparent to me that if I continued doing what I was doing, and if I continued believing what I was believing, and if I continued acting the way that I was acting, I was going to get exactly what they had gotten, because they were people just like me. And so it wasn't at that point in my life necessarily a person that struck me to change as much as it was a group of people, my surroundings, and I see, and this is kind of a broad statement, I grew up in not the best neighborhoods, and I still see people that are not in the best neighborhoods in any walk of life, white, black, Spanish, Asian. There's bad neighborhoods anywhere we want to go. Some countries have worse neighborhoods than other countries, but bad neighborhood's a bad neighborhood. Well, you can stay impoverished because you believe that poverty is the only way, or you can identify that everybody is acting a certain way. They're all acting impoverished. They've all relinquished power. They all have a sense of victimization, and you can step out of that and become aware that if you keep doing what they're doing, you're going to keep getting what they've gotten. So it's just like guys like you and me. You said you wanted to break that chain of addiction in your family. It's the same set of circumstances. So it wasn't necessarily a person as much as the group of people that I was surrounded with that made me just click out of it and go, this is not who I want to be. This is not what I want to get. And this is not what I'm going to do. So I am going to change, which, when we talk about people being comfortable and being afraid to take, it's the same thing. Most people are more comfortable being unsuccessful because being successful is hard and it's scary. It takes risk. It takes hard work. It takes commitment. It takes dedication. It doesn't matter if it's going to the gym. It doesn't matter if it's being a good husband. It doesn't matter if it's being a good father. It doesn't matter if it's being a good employee or employer or whatever you're doing that's hard. There's a lot of fear in hard things or things that are unknown. And that can keep you impoverished. That can keep you mentally poor. That can keep you spiritually poor. That can keep you financially poor. And most people are more comfortable staying in that mindset than they are breaking through their fears and doing the hard work. And so, yeah, it wasn't, it's kind of a long way to answer your question, but it wasn't a person as much as the group of people. And that would be, my call to action. If you're in a place or situation in life and you're surrounded by people that are not who you want to be, and I always thought, oh, what's the, there's a movie, The Secret to My Success, when I was growing up, when I was young, and I was like, oh, what is the secret to the success? It's hard ass work, and it's making a way. Nobody's going to come in and hand you life-changing opportunities. Nobody's going to come in and make you stop hanging around lazy, impoverished people. Nobody's going to make you stop being a victim. You have to take control and make it happen. So yeah, it was the group of people. And later in my life, there was definitely, I'm definitely, every great leader must be a follower. And I have a lot of men and women in my life that have inspired me greatly and that I aspire to be like, and I follow their footsteps in the snow. But early on, it was just a group of people.
That's amazing, man. So awareness. That was the first step, awareness, right? Looking around and realizing that, well, that saying, you are the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. So you looked around and you were like, holy shit. Right. And then you realize that if you kept being in that environment and you kept following the same path that other people before you followed, you were going to end up the same way. Right. There's it's not rocket science. and
Sure.
you became aware and decided to change. Awesome. So, but so you mentioned things being hard, success being hard, and success being scary, right? Because there is a certain amount of fear that you have when you're going to take a bold step into, well, outside of the status quo, right? Outside of what's normal within where you're living. And it's hard, and there might be fear, but the key to getting over that is courage. So what gave you the courage, man?
Honestly, the courage was built up over small wins.
Cool.
It was built up. My belief system has been literally built up over small wins. Starting to believe that I could do it. So I listen to, I take in a lot of content, and I was listening to somebody a while back, and they made a statement, and what they said was, first comes the work, and then comes the planning, and then comes the mindset. And so I think where people fail, and what that means is, first you put in just massive amounts of work, and that takes courage, and it takes forgery, and it takes fortitude, and it takes grit, and it takes tenacity, because all work becomes monotonous, but when you go in and you put in large amounts of work, you start believing in yourself. You start believing that you can do it. You start believing that you can break out of things. You start just having this core internal belief system that you can do something. And, next does come the planning. And so what happens is that once you put in the work, and this can be planning in the gym, it can be planning, this can be work in your marriage, this can be work in your parenting. All of these things apply. It's, life is relative. Success and failures have very relative factors to each one of them. For me, I just like to focus on success. And so the planning came next. My work started creating things. I had to plan on how to buy a house. I had worked so long, I had saved for a house. And now how do I plan on buying a house, right? Like these little things. But just from going in and being very consistent over time and believing in myself and having that grit and that fortitude and that tenacity. And listen, when I started and I got out of prison in 2007, I worked at a car wash.
2007? Holy shit, man. That was like what, 12 years ago?
Yeah, not long.
That's crazy, man.
And I hear these guys, and they, and you always hear this stuff on the street, and like, I'm not going to go work at this job and make $12 an hour when I could do this and make this much money over here doing this, whatever it is. Well, that's just an excuse. And what the lack of foresight in that is the compound effect of a negative behavior and the compound effect of a positive behavior. So the car wash leads to a job as a limousine driver. And the job as a limousine driver leads me to a job in sales at the limousine company, which lasted for 10 years. But, around my third or fourth year, going from that car wash allowed me to buy a car. And having that car made me get a driver's license. And so I got a driver's license, then I got a car. But because I had a driver's license, I could apply at a transportation company. And because I had applied at the transportation company, I created myself a sales job at the transportation company. But it came from not being too good to spray down a car at a car wash. I wasn't too good to do that. I was grateful that I had a job, and I was going to work that job until I got another job. So these, when you say what are the things, it's a whole symphony of positive things that I was doing and hard work that I was putting in, and never having an ego that said I was too good to do anything. When I was at the car wash, the cars would come out of the car wash, and the worst job at the car wash was the job that I had when I started. You had two rags, and the car would come out of the car wash, and you would wipe down all the water spots. Well, I live in Las Vegas, and it was summer. So there's no tent. There's nothing. You're just standing out there baking, wiping these water spots down. And behind me, there was, some guys, and they were under these tents, and they were cleaning the cars on the inside. And that's what I aspired to be. But at no point did I have a lack of gratitude or a lack of foresight? And they say, well, how do I make a change? Well, you just make a change. My goal was to be the guy under the tent. And then after I was the guy under the tent, I said, there's a better job here. It's the guy in the back that sprays the car down before it goes in, because he's near all the water mist. And then when there's no cars, he gets to go into this little office with an air conditioner. And so those little things, but saving my money and my tips, allowed me to say, I saved $1,500 in tips, and that allowed me to put the down payment on a $7,000 car. But also I had gotten a driver's license, and that allowed me to get the next job. So it's this, what I see a lot is this lack of foresight from people saying, I'm willing to do anything necessary to be successful, and I will not be judged by what I'm doing to become successful while I'm doing it. When I see a guy out on the street and they're doing the signs, that's like, oh, go in and eat here. Mm-hmm. I love that guy. I have so much respect for that guy. When I see a guy and he's, they're doing these little menial jobs that we all think like, the guy at the Subway making the sandwiches, or the guy at the car, I love that guy. I have so much respect for that guy, because I'm like, you are willing to do whatever it takes. But the problem is that's where most people stop. Mm-hmm. That's just the beginning. You can't get comfortable. And that's where we talk about that comfort level. Like they settle in. Okay, I'm making 30 grand a year and I can pay my bills at my apartment. No, that's just the beginning. Harness that and use that to constantly have a growth mindset. But so it was a whole correlation of things, and a combination of not being too proud to do any job that needed, and a constant ambition and desire to be more and more and more. And all of the little things added up to who I am today. There was nothing was handed to me. I worked for every ounce of it. And I didn't, my feet did all the walking, and I haven't done all this by myself. I've had a lot of great people believe in me and help me along the way, because when people see you working and they respect and appreciate what you're doing, and you're honest and you're hardworking and you're caring and you're adding value, almost all successful people want you to be around them, and they want to help you become more successful. So I haven't done it all by myself. It's been a lot of hard work, and I've been surrounded and been in some good situations where I've been afforded even just the limousine company to be able to work there from my situation. But it was because of what I was doing at the time. And that's where people get caught up, because they think, I don't even know where to start. You know where you start? You just start moving. You just go do whatever you got to do to get out of the situation that you're in. So that's kind of the how and the macro level of why and how I started.
That's crazy, man. I mean, it's awesome. And it's so like, there's a lot of humility that I get from you, from like your story. And actually, some of my values is humility, respect, and wisdom, right? Like humility, respect, and wisdom. I always, want to be humble, and I know that I'm committed to do anything that it takes to eventually get to where I want to go, right? And I always have like my eye on that North Star, but being willing to go through the process and put in the work. And it's just crazy how like everyone wants to get rich, right? Like right now with online businesses and everything that you can do, all the opportunity that there is, everyone's trying to get rich quickly, right? Get rich fast, right? But the reality, like Gary Vee, like what he says of, holy shit, you're 35, man. Like I want you to realize that you're young, right? And that's what that it's really humbling to like just hear you speak, man, and hear you say that like 12 years ago you were working at a car wash, and now you're like running multiple successful companies. It's just crazy to me, right? And it's exciting as well because of where I am, right? I mean, it's like how young I am and the wisdom that I'm getting from everyone that I speak to. And yeah, I just really appreciate you being so vulnerable, man. When you said that you were going to be vulnerable, I didn't expect you going into this story. So yeah, thank you for that, man. And going back to the positive actions compounded, it's crazy, right? How when you are humble, when you are willing to do anything that it takes to keep on making progress. Hey, sorry for the interruption. I just wanted to tell you that this podcast has completely changed my life in ways that you could never imagine, and I would like the same for you. Look, You are the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with, and the fastest way for you to level yourself up in every area of your life is for you to connect with people who are where you want to be, build relationships with them, and connect with them. The best way for you to do that right now in the digital age is for you to start your own podcast. And I just wanted to let you know that I have a free training that you can get free access to. It's called the 30-day Net Worth Skyrocketing 3-step podcast cloak track framework. And it's going to show you how you can start and automate everything in your podcast, from finding your ideal guest, getting them on an interview with you, and creating an automated content machine in just 30 days. By executing on this free training, you're going to be able to connect with high-level people, no matter how rich, famous, or out of your league they may seem, in just 30 days with less than 1 to 2 hours per week, so that you can increase your net worth, your authority, your trust, your client acquisition ability, and your opportunity. So there's a special link for this free training in the description of this video. Thank you for watching and tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed the rest of this episode. Bye-bye. In your life, doors open up for you. Right. And then another thing that I wanted to mention is the integrity, right? At the beginning, you talked about integrity. And I have this thing that I always remember, that I need to be acting in my life. I need to be going through my life as if a camera was following me, and that recording was going to be shown to my kids, right? Always acting with integrity, always acting in alignment to who I say I'm going to be, who I say I want to be, and what I say I want to have. So that was really powerful, man. Thanks for sharing. And like for everyone like that's listening, and that will eventually listen to this podcast, the majority of my talks, of my chats with high-level men like you, man, always come down to like mindset and character and putting in the work, right? And I almost sometimes get a little bit insecure about like, is my audience going to want to listen to this? Because I've never had a conversation about tactics and strategies, man. I've never had a conversation about, how do you set up a Facebook ad or a funnel? Like, it's always, the mindset, the character, and all of that stuff, which it's golden, right? But a lot of the people that are, a little bit immature, I can say, I don't know what other word to use. I feel like would not appreciate the lessons that everyone, shares on my podcast, because when I got lessons from entrepreneurs, or when I heard lessons that were the real deal to success, I didn't listen to them until I had to go through them. Right.
So, listen, here's one of the most important things that you can remember or to understand. Where, I love, you're talking about Gary V, I like Gary V. There's a saying, you don't want to make $1 million. What you need to focus on is becoming a person who knows how to make $1 million. There's a big difference. So the reason that it's not important for us to talk about tactics and strategies as much as it is to talk about what it took to become the person that I am is, you can go on YouTube and punch in how to get a roofing contractor's license in Nevada. Well, that will tell you, but did you learn how to run a business? Did you earn enough money to invest in the business? Did you become a man or a woman who could start a business? And whether that's an online marketplace or a roofing company or a solar company or a car dealership or a windshield wiping company or whatever it is, you can go and Google the processes to do the business, but have you gained the knowledge as a human being to run the business? And so people are looking, listen, it's an immature approach to success to try and find instant successes. And we see it in music, the music industry. Oh, somebody's got a good voice. Well, this guy takes off and this guy doesn't. Well, that doesn't mean that everybody's going to go and be Lil Wayne. It doesn't mean that everybody's going to go and be anybody. You can be an amazing singer and not go anywhere. You can be the best NFT designer in the game. And for some reason you don't take off. You can be, it's becoming the person who learns how to run those businesses, right? We see successful ball players NFL, NBA, who are highly successful and make millions of dollars and then go broke because they never learned how to run a business. They never learned how money operated. They never learned how to add value to other people. They never learned at the macro level. They never became the person who knew how to make $1 million. If you're looking for a one-hitter quitter, you may hit it and it won't last. You have to understand how business operates, how you operate, how people operate. You have to understand how to get there and all of the little successes along the way. You know, I didn't just start a roofing company. You know, I started in my space knocking doors after the transportation company. Uber and Lyft came into Nevada, and I was at the transportation company for about almost 10 years, 9.5 years. And when Uber and Lyft came into the marketplace back in 2016, I saw a 30% market drop, and I was making about $110,000 a year at that time. And I didn't have a lot of options, but I started searching, and, my buddy was knocking doors for Vivint, selling alarms, amazing company. I love Vivint still to my heart. They really just a huge portion of my success. And when I first met him, he was showing me these checks, and I thought the same thing. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna knock doors. I'm comfy over here. I'm making 110 grand. I got a company car, and life changed, and so my perspective changed. All right, but I'm going to talk about how I got here to a roofing company, and to get here, I had to understand how to get here. So I went out and I knocked doors. I left the transportation company and I went to Vivint to knock doors. And in 2017, I was the national sales rookie of the year for Vivint, which at the time was one of the largest door-to-door sales organizations in the nation. So I sold more alarms than any rookie in the nation in America for Vivint that year. During that year, I learned how to knock doors, and I learned how to sell, and I learned how to transact on a door. And then I learned how to recruit people. And then I learned how to manage people. And then I learned how to lead people. And then in my second year, I perpetuated that knowledge base. And then I had an understanding of how the financials work and how the business work and how the business operated. And then I started my own solar sales company because I had gained the knowledge from those years at Vivint. It taught me how to do the job. And then over the next 3 years, I saved enough money and understood construction well enough from selling solar that I could start my own construction company and understand how to run it. And a lot of this, I can't take all the attribution of this. My wife plays a huge part in what we do. But what I'm saying is I learned to become the man that I am through work and dedication and grit and fortitude and hard days and fear and anxiety and financial frustrations and failures and wins. I didn't just get to $1 million. I learned how to become a man who knew how to earn $1 million. That's the difference in people looking for that, tell me how you started it or this or that. Let me tell you who I am and then aspire to be me, because I'm not high citing on anything, but everything that and so before you ask me, who are the people? Listen, when I started at Vivint, I was very lucky to come across some of the most inspiring men and women that I've ever met. And since then, I don't want to say that I idolize some of these people, but I want to be like them so much because they're so positive. I do what they do. Listen, they have an amazing relationship, a faithful relationship with the universe, with God, or whoever they want to call it. But I value that. And they're amazing with their families. And I loved what you said. Picture doing everything that you're doing. Now, and you know what you can do is you can show my whole tape to my daughter. I love that, what you said. Picture, and that's how they live their lives. They're good with their families. They're good with their wives. They're good to their teams. They're good as leaders. They're good as employees. They're good in everything that they do. They read, they're spiritual, they're kind, they're honest, they have integrity, they have principles, and they're mentally successful, spiritually successful, physically successful, and financially successful. And I just fell in love with that. And I idolized that. And I said, hey, I want to do and be what you're doing because I value and appreciate that so much. And, I found a lot of that in my early days at Vivint. But when I'm saying, who I became, it's more, I think it's more important for people to be inspired, to have the grit and the fortitude and to fall. I always say, I just want to fall in line with your footprints in the snow and follow you where you're going, because every great leader must follow. And that's, when I'm telling my story, that's what I want people to understand is there's no high citing or, hey, I did all this great stuff. It's how did I get here? And I did it through a lot of hard work, fighting through fear, and then valuing and appreciating other people that were inspiring to me and falling in line with what they were doing. So I too could become great and learn business and learn parenting and learn being a good husband and become the man that I am. It's much more important than how do you start a roofing company. I'll tell you, you go down and you study for a test, and then you go and try and take a roofing contractor's license. Do you have the money? That's what you do. But can you do it? Can you run the company? Can you do the things? So it's getting to where you need to be rather than how do you do the thing you need to do. It's the macro level of who you become when you're becoming. So Exactly. Don't want to make $1 million. Want to become the man who knows how to make $1 million.
Be, do, have, right? And
Yes.
Man, I just love everything that you say, because everything comes down to belief and balls, right? There's this circle that I talk about of how an entrepreneur goes through skills, right? Levels of skills that he has to learn. Like you said, you were door to door, you learn sales, and then you learn how to recruit, and then you learn how to manage, and then you learn how to lead. Or there's skills they need to learn at every stage of the game. Skills, and then there's a character that you need to develop, right? The fortitude, the persistence, the perseverance, the going through the pain, going through the suffering, going through the fear, going through the frustrations. Skills, character, and belief, right? And that's why I focus on character and belief. And I call it belief, and having the belief in the balls to actually do what it takes and be who you must be to have what you want to have, to be who you must be, to do what's required to get the results that you desire. Belief and balls, because like you said, the skills, right? Like learning how to sell, or learning how to set up a Facebook ad. You can literally go on Google or go on YouTube and search for it, and you'll get 1,000 videos on how to do it. But what determines whether you do it or not is the belief in yourself and the balls, your character that you got to actually do it, and who which comes down to who you are.
To do it, and then listen, the belief that you can and the courage to do it, and then the compound effect of doing it consistently over and over. I watched I can't remember this kid's name, but he's doing the boxing right now. Jake. Anyway, these I watch these guys, and what they're masters at social media. And I was watching a video, and what he said was that, listen, this didn't just happen. I didn't just get all these followers. I have been studying social media mastery for the last 5 years, day in and day out. I live my social media. That's his career. That's his job. And so it's the compound effect. It's
Jake
that,
Paul?
hey, I believe, yep, Jake Paul. So it was just this one, little interview that he'd done, but that was my takeaway. It was like this kid is a professional at social media. It's the compound effect of focusing on something, and he has become a mogul in what he's done because he didn't just have the courage to do it, but he's done it over and over and over through wins and losses and fails. And the knowledge that's gained in that, and the ability to do it, and how to market, how to manage money, and how to do this and how to do that, all the different aspects of business and whatever you're doing, it's easy. And anybody, I have a TikTok account. You know how many followers I have? I don't know, like 100, right? Like anybody can go in and set on a TikTok account. Anybody can go in and set up an Instagram account. Anybody can go in and set up a Facebook account, because we can take it down to this simple. But can anybody get 1 million followers? No, you have to learn how to get 1 million followers. And, listen, I'd love to have, if I could have 1 million followers on my YouTube channel, I'd be making $1 million a year just from my followers. Well, I don't have the skill because I haven't put my work and dedication into that. So people, it's really key. What I've learned is what I admire in men. It's literally following in their footsteps. And the men that I admire, they read books. They have the compound effect of reading and listening to books. They take in content. So they're always learning. They're always sharpening the saw. They're always the people that I respect the most are honest, good family men. They're loyal to their wives and their children, and they answer to their families as a parent and as a husband, and they do what's right in those areas, and they're active in their family, and they're active spiritually. And we talk about spirituality. I think spirituality can be summed up too in just how do I come across as a spiritual being? Do I love people in general? Do I care deeply about people? It doesn't just have to be about God, but that's something that I admire. And then I just do what they do. And I know that, hey, I might not be who they are in a year, and I might not be who they are in 2 years. They may be 10 or 15 years ahead of me, but I want to aspire to be like those people. And I have to understand that, most of the people that I really admire are fairly financially successful. But they didn't just get there because they landed on something that was easy. They got there through a lot of grit and fortitude and hard work. And that's the key factor for people, is not just focusing on what they're doing, but how they got there.
Exactly. So, man, and thank you, right? Thank you, because everything that you said about the men that you admire, I resonated with it. So thank you, man. Right. Yeah. That's what I aspire to be as well. And that's the same type of men that I respect and appreciate and honor, and I'm grateful about. And that's the type of men that I've had on my podcast so far. So, yeah. So, man, to finish every episode, I finish with 5 questions, and it takes like 3 minutes. So can I go ahead and ask you the first one?
Please.
So, man, what is one mindset shift that you made in your life that has allowed you to get to where you are right now? A mindset shift, like a breakthrough.
Abundance. Moving from a fixed mindset to an abundance mindset. And an abundance mindset will I believe in a few things. One is the law of attraction. I believe that we attract to us whatever we feel. And if, a fixed mindset says, I can't, it's not possible, there's too many odds, there's too many factors. An abundance mindset says, I'm going to do whatever it takes. No ego, $12 an hour, wash a car, sell a newspaper, twirl a sign, go to school, work hard, dig a ditch. It doesn't matter. Abundance mindset says, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get where I want to go. And, through an abundance, when I switched from a fixed mindset into an abundance mindset, the law of attraction really started coming. And I started just focusing on all the things that were good in life and powerful in life. And that was a very pivotal time in my life when I started with the abundance, because the law of attraction started, everything that I wanted, that I appreciated, that I loved and respected, started coming to me through hard work. So an abundance mindset, I think, is a key factor for any successful individual.
Me too. Yeah. Especially right now when everyone is living in fear, right? And in scarcity, and you get what you put out. So if you're putting out things from a place of scarcity and fear and doubts, you get more of the same. So 100%. The second question, man, is mindset map. So what do you do to stay clear on who you are, clear on what you want, clear on where you're going?
So I have goals that I write. I have monthly goals and annual goals. I have 5-year goals, and I have a 10-year goal. My 10-year goal is pretty lofty. Well, it's not quite 10 years now. But when I'm 56, I will have made $50 million. Not quite sure how I'm going to get that 50 million yet, but I'm on track. So I know it's going to come if I just keep doing what I'm doing. But I go all the way out. The best way that I heard goals stated was, sometimes goals are like driving on a freeway at night with your high beams on. That's my 10-year goal. I can't necessarily see what's 2 or 3 miles out. I know where I want to go and what's going to happen. And I can only see the things that are within my foresight, which is my, 1-month goal, half-year goal, year goal, 2-year goals. Those are all pretty attainable, but just having an idea of what I want. And then I just keep very busy. Once I start something, I delegate it immediately to people who I trust and that can run it. And then I start something else. So I'm constantly on the move, trying to start and acquire and do new things to get to my goals. So, I'm fairly categorical in what I do. I use goals. I use positive affirmations to keep myself on track with what I'm doing.
I like it. I like the what you said about the car, right? Like you can see like 6 feet in front of you. That's all you need. As long as you keep putting in the work, and then as you move forward, you plan. And then as you move forward, you get the mindsets that are required. Awesome, man.
As long
So
as
let's
you
see.
know
The third
you're on the
question
right
is,
road.
I'm sorry?
As long as you know you're on the right road.
Right. It's about direction, right? It's not so much about the speed that you're going at, but the direction, and knowing and being really clear about the direction that you want to go on.
Absolutely.
So let's see. The third question is mindset map, motion, man. So like, what is one habit? And then, you know, almost everyone mentioned something along the lines of working out, meditating, journaling, and what else? I don't know what, and being grateful, right? But like, if you can say something, maybe I don't know, like a habit that you think is rare that you have that has contributed to your success.
I don't know that any really, maybe, but I don't think that most successful people have too many habits that are rare. I think we all share very, very big similarities.
Yeah.
I'm habitually grateful. You know, the places that I come from, you know, listen, I lived in a bathroom with another man for 9.5 years. So, you know, sometimes I find myself in my house, or, you know, on a vacation, or in my car, or in my office, and I'm just grateful. It's, you know, it's unbelievable sometimes to me what has transpired in my life. So, you know, I have a lot of moments in my day where I'm very grateful. I think that one of the, you know, I have a little bit of attention deficit, which helps me keep my feet moving. I get bored, and I feel dissatisfied if I'm not achieving something new. And I don't need to be, you know, I'm very big on leadership skills, and leaders don't manage, they delegate. I love to create, you know, for me, it's the chase. I love to create something new. I want to start something new. And I love that action and that work and that digging and those obstacles and those challenges. I feed off of that now in my life. If I'm not doing something hard, I don't feel good. I've done so many hard things for so long that I'm almost addicted to the hard things. So, you know, for me, starting new challenges, or just marketing, or starting a new business, or the podcast, or the channel, like these things are all what kind of feed my soul. And so I don't know, I guess, yeah, habitually I've started moving only towards hard things, but it was because becoming the man that I am showed me that hard things produce the fruits that I wanted, and that soft things produce no fruits. And I love fruits, whether they're spiritual fruits, family fruits, financial fruits, physical fruits, cars, houses, love, happy daughter, happy wife. I love those things. And the only place they come from is doing hard things. So I've gotten addicted to doing hard things, and I don't feel good if I'm not doing them.
Awesome, man. I love it. Great answer. I actually just watched the video from Will Smith, who said that the keys to life are doing hard things and reading books. Because when you do hard things, you know, when you run, when you take ice cold showers, when you know, get in the sauna and it's really hot, when you have to do some kind of work that you don't want to do, there's this voice, right, that comes to your mind that is telling you, no, don't do it, don't work out, stay in bed, don't go into the ice cold shower, instead of, you know, take a warm one. You know, like there's this voice that wants to keep you comfortable, right? And when you do hard things, you learn how to defeat that voice, and it starts getting quieter and quieter and quieter, and you might master it, right? That is the first thing. That is the first key to life. And then the second key is reading books. And the reason for that is because there's no problem that has already been solved, right? There's no problem that you can have that has not already been solved by someone else. And the solution to those problems, you can find them in books. And that's why, like, those two are like the keys.
For many years, obviously, when I was incarcerated, I read a lot of books, and then I stopped for a while. But I can say honestly that over the last 5 years, there has not been 1 month that I have not either been listening or reading to a book. Right now, I'm listening to The Psychology of Money, but I've listened to hundreds of books and read hundreds of books over time to become the person. So I agree with you, and it's the compound effect of reading. And I find people do not read, and it's just, or listen to books, and it's just such a waste. So yeah, I agree with you 100%. I am never not reading or listening.
I'm obsessed with acquiring skills, man. This how many days? 25 days of the year, I've read these 4 books, man. Right? Wow. They're about skills that I'm missing. I'm missing marketing skills, right? I found it kind of challenging to find exactly who is it that I'm trying to target and be able to market it in a way to get to people come to you. So far, man, I'm on this one. I'm on the fourth one this year, the last 25 days, 4 books, man. So yeah, I'm obsessed with acquiring skills as well. Let's see, mindset map, motion, measure. The last question, man, is tracking. Do you track any area of your life, business, or talk
Tracking?
a little bit about
Unpack that for me a little bit.
I'm sorry.
Unpack that for me a little bit. What do you mean tracking?
So tracking, like will you track girls? Will you measure improves? Right. That saying. So
yeah. So for me, it's not necessarily in the analytical sense of in business. Do I track my business? Yeah, my business has grown over the last 3 years at 33%. For the solar company and the roofing company, I track the financial progresses for that. For my personal, I rely on just a few. I like to keep things very simple internally, right? It's much easier for me. One of my favorite authors and positive speakers is David Goggins. And, one of the things that, Goggins said that hit me really, really hard, and it was very, very simple, is if you're not better today than you were yesterday, you're worse. And so internally, my personal tracking, like obviously, I track the analytics of my business and the financials of my business and the growth of my business over time. But personally, I have those same characteristics where, has there been a time in the last 5 years where 2 weeks have gone by and I haven't started a new book? There have. But I have that internal check system. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're not listening to books. You're not reading books. Like, you're not growing. You're not being better. And so for me, my internal tracking systems is just who I've become and evolved over time. And it's so easy for me to do because I do so much reflecting and I know who I am and what areas I need to grow in, whether it's, learning how to be a better, I've been an amazing father, but where's my parenting? Am I spending enough time? Am I spending enough energy? Am I giving enough of myself? Am I communicating with my wife the way that I should and helping her grow and helping her feel loved? Am I communicating with my team? Am I reading? Do I feel like a good person? Am I going to the gym? Am I eating right? So my internal check-ins are fairly simple, and they just state, am I getting better every day? And if I'm not, I'm getting worse, and I'm not allowed to get worse. So I'm going to get better. And those, check in it. I'm not this perfect person that every month and every day is, on 100%. There's, days and times when I get dark cloud and I'm running on 40% because, it gets heavy, but I don't allow myself to stay there. It's successful people think and act differently than unsuccessful people. And it's not because they're better in life. They're just better at certain things. I'm not allowed to stay in negative thought. I'm not allowed to stay in negative behavior. I must grow. I must overwhelm those things with positive thoughts and actions and attitudes and belief systems. And so my tracking system for me is fairly simple. Am I getting better? And if I'm not, I need to get better.
Awesome. It's about progress, not perfection, right?
100%.
So awesome, man. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you being here, man, and having taken the time out of your day. I know that time is, probably you consider the most valuable asset. So I really appreciate you giving me, a little bit more than an hour to me. So I'm very grateful for that as well. So, man, if, people want to know more about you, right, listen to your podcast, maybe they want, door-to-door sales tips, or maybe they want to know more about the roofing industry or more about the, what you got going on, where can they find you, man?
Sure. So I'm just rebranding the podcast. So the new podcast is going to be Door to Door Insider. So it's door-to-door.insider. You can see I can show this guy here. Look for that on there. We're just going to start doing a few of our new podcasts coming out over the next couple weeks. If they want to find me personally, they can find me at Instagram here. Maybe you can throw some of this stuff up later, but that's my Instagram. I'm not the best with socials. I guess maybe that I don't have too much.
Put them there.
Absolutely. And I appreciate it. And I appreciate anybody who takes in content, and I appreciate you for putting the content out there. I mean, I think things like this, people seeking how to become better, how to share how they became better and who they become. This is the kind of stuff I feed on personally, listening to other people talk and what their success habits and behaviors were. So I appreciate what you're doing. I feel honored that you asked me to come on. I hope that I've added some type of value to your listeners. And, I just have a great respect for you and everything that you're doing. So thank you for having me on.
Thank you, man. And podcast changed my life. I'm looking to do the same thing, man. So thank you for coming on, and appreciate you, man. See you later.
All right, later.
Thank you for watching the Gentleman's Success, Happiness, and Fulfillment Talk podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with one friend, leave us a comment, and let us know. 99% of people never leave a review or comment, but we love and are very thankful with the 1% of you who do. If there's something or someone you want to see on this podcast, send me a message on Instagram at Alex_Ramirez1020 and let me know. As a thank you for that, I have an amazing surprise for each and every one of you who does take the time to leave us a comment or review on YouTube or one of the major podcasting platforms